Okay. Hello, everyone. We are just getting started, waiting for our guests to join us. Our speaker to join us.
Back again.
She's back. We're getting set up on Facebook Live. Hello, all of our Zoom attendees. And hello, all of our Facebook attendees. We are in. Great. Wonderful. We're streaming live on Facebook and our participants are still joining us. It's 5 p.m.
They're on Santa Barbara time. It'll take a while.
Exactly. We're getting into the fiesta spirit just a little bit early. Well, I'll wait another minute for the last of our participants to join us on Zoom and on Facebook, and then we'll get started. All right. Okay, great. Well, I'm going to start us in. Welcome, Viva la Fiesta. On behalf of our director, Daisha Harwood, and our board of trustees, welcome to History Happy Hour at Home. My name is Emily Alicio, Education and Visitor Experience Manager at the Historical Museum. I hope tonight you'll join me in toasting the 98-year tradition of Old Spanish Days in Santa Barbara. I want to remind you that the museum is open. You can visit Wednesdays through Sundays from noon to 5 p.m. with Thursdays open later until 7 p.m. Entrance is free. Get in the spirit of fiesta with our exhibition, Project Fiesta, a history of Old Spanish Days, which celebrates the decades of festival history that we share. It's open through September 11th. You can also visit the permanent Edward Boreen Gallery. Boreen was very involved with the founding of the historical parade, which will be back this year and on Cabrillo. We are also hosting a special exhibit with an environmental focus in collaboration with our local museum friends entitled Take a Hike, Save the World. Special thanks to our Project Fiesta exhibition sponsors, the WWW Foundation, the Alice Tweed Toohey Foundation, Hutton Parker Foundation, Montecito Bank and Trust, and John Woodward. And thanks to Old Spanish Days and the Carriage Museum for their continued collaboration. Fiesta posters are something that we love to collect here at the museum. In fact, while our collection is incredible, it's not complete. Contact us to find out how you can help us ensure that we have every year of Fiesta represented in our archive. And if you're looking for more ways to support the museum, stop in and check out the Fiesta posters and merchandise that we carry in our museum store. And now for our speaker. Erin Graffy de Garcia has written extensively about local history and culture. She served as the Old Spanish Days historian for nearly 30 years, and her book highlighting California's Rancho period was the recipient of 3 National Book Awards. In 2020, she was named Honorary La Presidenta of Old Spanish Days. Ladies and gentlemen, Erin Graffy. Erin, you have the floor.
Very good. Hold on. Let me. There, are we on? Are we set, Emily?
Just need to share your screen with us.
Oh, I thought I pushed the right button. Nope.
Now we're on.
There? Okay. Good evening, everyone. Good afternoon, depending on what part of the country you're checking in from. I know we've got people from Texas today, so Viva la Fiesta in McKinney, Texas. This is just a great subject because those of us who just love Santa Barbara and love Santa Barbara history, every little thing that we do here is just oozing some interesting Santa Barbara historical trivia. You know, at first our Fiesta posters just seem like, well, it's a collection of pretty pictures and there must not be too much to say about that. but we'll see about that. There's actually so much in these posters. First of all, on the pretty picture side, there's the art of all the Fiesta posters. And the artists that have created these, okay, most of them are Santa Barbara artists. Many of them were professional artists, so amateur local people, local professional artists, and both national and world-renowned artists created some of our Fiesta posters. But the second part is also the fun part, I think, is the community part, because our posters tell us about our community. They tell us about the culture, what's going on in the country. And sometimes when you're looking at the poster, there are little motifs or details that you look at, you go, well, what was that all about? Well, that's a complete mystery until you know about the artist or you know about the presidente behind the poster. And some of those secrets are what we're going to reveal today. So every poster tells a story. So let's look at the very first poster, Fiesta 1924. There was a Fiesta, oops, there we go. Uh-oh, we're not going. Emily, we're not progressing. Let's just when I'm ready for the exciting part.
You might want to try closing your slides and reopening them again.
Where do I even do that?
Want to?
Stop share and just start again?
Yes.
Okay, now let's try. We just went through this and said everything is up in order. Well, folks, this is the excitement of live TV. Nope, not happening again. Oh, Emily.
Try unsharing your screen again, and then we'll go from there.
I can't believe we just went through this whole thing. It was perfect. Okay, we don't need that. Oh, there it goes. Are you there? Do you have it on?
Try sharing the screen one more time.
No. Ladies and gentlemen, hold for station identification while we figured out what just went wrong. Is that going now?
Yes, it is. And I can see you and the slides.
All righty. We'll just continue. Okay, there was a, I hope this keeps going. In 1924, that was the first Fiesta. And what they did was they held a poster contest. And the winner here was Frederick Alexander Paula. He was from Britain and he joined the Navy, came to the United States. And what we noticed, and then he became a WPA artist. So he was quite competent, but here's one of his very first things that he did, and that's for Fiesta. So a couple of fun things here. Number one is our signature building, the mission. You find that in just almost any cool thing about Santa Barbara is you've got to show the mission, and that says, this is Santa Barbara. The second thing is we look at our dancing girl, and this is so iconic of even going back then. We always think of the dancing girl. Their dresses might change up. They've got one arm kind of akimbo, the other one up with a fan. She's got the fan, roses in her hair. So right from the very beginning, we've got these iconic symbols of Santa Barbara. And you see the caballero, waving his hat right behind her. But you also see, it looks like pirates for sure, and a ship. And these aren't usually seen in our Fiesta posters, but remember, this was the first year and he came from the Navy. So he's putting his Navy man people in there. So this was the very first poster. And in this poster contest, there was another entrant, and we see it here. And this was by Luda Marie Riggs, the architect. So there's a couple of interesting things about this. You notice that it doesn't say Fiesta right at the top. It says the beggar on horseback. And here's a picture of the horse and the guy in August 4th through 16th. And at the bottom, it says, opens the Lobero Theater, Santa Barbara, California, follow the beggar, and Old Spanish Days, and it gives the dates for that. So, first of all, we don't see the mission, but it looks like the Lobero. Yes, it is Lobero. If you remember, the Lobero opened the same first summer as Fiesta. Luda Marie Riggs was the architect on the Lobero. She certainly, with George Washington Smith, but she had done the ceiling and a lot of special parts. And so that's why she's featuring it there. Now, afterwards, she said she thought that she didn't win. I don't know that she was being sour grapes, because it is a really cool poster. But I think she was just trying to understand, what one took place, because she was a very fine artist herself. And she heard that it was Santa Barbara was trying to establish itself with its horse reputation. Remember, Dwight Murphy had just developed the Golden Palomino here in Santa Barbara. And they did not want to see her sorry nag there on a poster representing the community. But nonetheless, great poster. She loved Fiesta and used to come to all the fiestas in full costume. And the other part we notice is it says opens the Lobero, and then we're following with Old Spanish Days. The typical narrative we have in Santa Barbara is that the Lobero opened and then Fiesta happened, and that's how Fiesta came about. In fact, Fiesta was a completely different community organization putting itself together starting in May, and they were going to have this Fiesta in Old Spanish Days. They were going to have it in September. And as time goes on and we're, trying to put things together and running out of budget, they start moving it up to August. And they thought, why don't we just jump on the tailcoats of the Lobero? And this way we'll save money. They'll get more hype. Everybody will win. And that's how that took place. And let's go to the next poster. Yay, it worked. 1925. So it's the next year. It's the same artist. We're going to reuse his poster again. And what's interesting about this is people say 1925. Santa Barbara had the big, huge earthquake. They didn't have Fiesta. Well, they did have Fiesta. But if you remember, the earthquake destroyed downtown State Street. What they were missing was a parade. So they didn't have a parade that year. And one of the things they had was apparently caught the attention of the kind of PETA people of that time, the animal rights. They heard about a bullfight. So they all showed up to come and get the police and shut this thing down. And as it turns out, it was just kind of a staged bullfight with actors and actresses in bull costumes goofing around. But nonetheless, kind of showing you bits of the old Spanish Days tradition in a nice way for the 1925 Fiesta. And our 1926 poster, we don't know who the artist is on that, but a pretty thing, and it'd be interesting to know more about it and what that building is. I can't quite figure that one out. Then we move up to the wonderful, wonderful posters that these are the most collectible, the most striking, the most beloved. These are called the Seaside posters, the Seaside Oil, done by Ray Lawthorne. So he was a great artist. He taught at the School of Arts here, and he worked for the Seaside Oil Company. And they were in Summerland, and they were looking to move to Santa Barbara, and they want to kind of establish themselves. Nowadays, we just go, Summerland to Goleta to Elwood all kind of seems a little bit the same. But back then, Summerland was kind of a different county from Santa Barbara. So they wanted to ingratiate themselves in Santa Barbara. And the way they went about doing this is saying, we will sponsor and put together the poster for the annual Fiesta. Alrighty, so we see here in our very first series of the Seaside Oil posters, we have the mission, which is our iconic symbol of Santa Barbara. You notice also the headline at the top, and this is something we're going to see through many things in Santa Barbara, a lot of these Fiesta posters, which is wonderful hand lettering. So this wasn't some font that someone laid down. Someone did this all by hand, and we're going to see a lot of that. And I just love this. Now notice at the bottom, it says, make reservations here, La Entrada de los Americanos, a drama of California in 8 episodes. Stadium. So it's a couple things. If you're new to Santa Barbara, you're saying, well, what's that all about? We used to have these wonderful Old Spanish Days pageants. They were put on by a man named Charles Presley, who was a total impresario. He was a total PR man. He worked for Fiesta. He was on the original committee helping to put it together. And before we had the bowl created, the county bowl, we had these pageants that he put on, and they were at Peabody Stadium. So that's where this was held. We had just completed it. So 1925, second Fiesta. Oh, I'm sorry, this is moved up from there. 1936 is when we started with the bowl. But the first ones of these were in the early 30s, were still being done at Peabody Stadium. And what else are we going to have here? His dramas, pageants, were usually original scripts having to do with Santa Barbara history, with a cast of thousands, and he'd always find beautiful girls that could sing for the leads. So everybody in town would come to these shows to see everybody else in town. So it was quite a hoot. And this also gives us, let's take a look at the second one as well. Oh, this is just wonderful. Again, this handwriting, the top is probably not handwritten, but probably the bottom. And this building I don't recognize, but to me, I always think it looks like they're riding past the courthouse. They're going down Anacapa Street. And some of the elements, and this is a wonderful example of that, on how posters work. The best posters are not by the best artists, not necessarily by the best artists, or necessarily these fantastic illustrators, but by people who know really good design, balance, color communication, but particularly a strong graphic image with good contrast. And you're going to see that as we see through the posters. Some, we love the posters, but they're not maybe a really great poster design. And where this came from was actually the 19th century, you know, even in California, sort of for the illiterati, the people who couldn't really read. So you'd put up a piece of paper, post something that would have a strong design of something that was coming to town. Maybe it was a circus, maybe it was a famous person, and you would have the date underneath. And so by just looking at the poster, you didn't have to get up close to it and read all the detail. You might be going down the street and seeing it in a window about 10, 15 feet away, but you could tell what was coming. And most people kind of knew that what month we're in, and here's some of the dates. They might recognize the numbers from that. And so that's why the important part is the design, overall design, that you should be able to just glance at it quickly and see what's coming and when it's happening. And let's see what else we have. Here's another great theme. You notice again, here's the mission in the background. Here's the Caballero, who looks a great deal like Leo Carrillo, who was very popular at that time as a movie star and loved Fiesta and came here every year, always on a horse, always making a great to-do. And if he wasn't the model, he certainly was probably the inspiration for it. And again, the mission, we've got our Chumash there, we've got the Padre, and representing the old time in Santa Barbara. Here's another classic kind of a pose. We see the mission, you see the girl with the fan. She's not in a dancing pose, but she's with, you know, somebody who's trying to woo her. And there's always also in many of these posters, you see the man with the guitar singing and strumming to, usually to woo some young lady. And great job. Popular theme. And one more, and you see way in the background there on the left, you can see the mission again. Looks like they're in an oxen cart. So we will see that several times throughout these different things, different posters. And the girls with the mantillas and with the fans. Now, the one especially for you baby boomers and further up the genealogy food chain is something that's very, very well known, and that is the dancing couple. The artist on this was Olive Smith, This is not her death dates and live dates below. These are actually the dates of when her poster was used. From 1953, pretty much through 1985, some exceptions, and again brought back in 2012. So let's take a look. Yes, now you recognize that. And a couple of things about this. First, let me go back a few things. We did not have Fiesta during the 4 years of World War II. So then we moved up. We also canceled Fiesta during 1948 for a number of different reasons and came back again. We don't know quite about those posters or if there were posters, but the next one that we have is 1953 with the dancing couple. Excuse me. Charles Stork was the presidente, the head of Fiesta that year. And he was son of the news press publisher, Tom Stork. And Charles Stork worked at the news press at that time. So he turned around and tapped the people on his staff at the news press. It was Dick Smith who did the Fiesta edition. And Dick Smith is the same famous Dick Smith Wilderness. It was an incredibly talented guy. And his wife, Olive Smith, was the artist who painted watercolor. So he did the hand lettering here, as I mentioned, that you see that all over the place. So this is very iconic, Old Spanish Days. She did the painting. And we see this coming back again in future years in different colors. So here it is in 61. So for several years in red, then 61. Then we switched to orange in 66. And then in 74, changed to blue. So you're wondering, well, how come they didn't just switch it up? How come they did blue for several years and they did green for several years? Why not switch it up every year? And the reason for that is just pure printing production. The reason they didn't change it every year is that the size and the weight of the paper. Now these are big posters, probably 2 feet by 3 feet, maybe bigger. They're quite large. And the size and the weight of the paper were very expensive. When you have a poster that large, the paper is going to be heavier and thicker so that it won't rip and it will look nice when it hangs in a store or in the window. So these posters were printed in Los Angeles on a huge, what's called a web press. So these were used for big, huge runs when you're going to put thousands and thousands of, well, newspapers out, or thousands and thousands and thousands of big brochures. So you would put this on what's called a web press. So you're putting all this on, and you don't need that many, but because you have to print, you need the volume, you're printing out thousands and thousands of these. And then you only need maybe 2,000 for the community for this year. So then they would be taken to a local printer, and on their printer, like Hagen Printing would do this, they would add in the dates that you see in the bottom, and it's a different font because it's just going to tie in right there. And they will use this for several years, change the date the next year. When they run out of the blue, then they're going to go on to the next color. And that's the reason for that. Now, we have one more good mystery before we go on, and that is who is in this photograph? I'm sorry, in this poster. It was so often assumed that this was the dancer, Jose Monero. And this was his dance partner, Paquita Del Rey. But there's a problem with that. There's Jose and there's Paquita Del Rey. They were usually dancing more folklorico and not those Spanish costumes. And they don't quite look like the models. Let's take a look again. So the mystery, who was this going to be? Who were the models? I did talk to family members who were children at the time, and they said they remembered thinking that was Jose Monero because his studio was right across from the news press. So that would make a lot of sense. However, along the way, when I was doing research, I met a man named Augustin de Guevara, and he was a dancer and danced all over Fiesta for all kinds of different things. And when I met him, he mentioned about posing for a poster. And he did have lean, angular face and did have the kind of arms that look like that would go with this. And he just had the right build. So when I talked to him about this, he said that he remembered being in the poster. And I said, isn't that Jose Monero? And he said, oh, well, they told me it was the Fiesta poster. And he was very, very humble about it. So I did some more research on this. And it turns out I find a picture of Augustin de Guevara, and there's his wife, and they are holding the picture of the original poster that they posed for. But furthermore, There she is. There's his wife, Sally, in the red dress that we see in the poster above. So we think that that's the mystery solved. Uh-oh. Well, pause for station identification. Okay. So now let's take a look at local artists and local people. And this is so wonderful for Santa Barbara because we just love to highlight our own people. I know that makes us really provincial, but who cares? We love it. We're Santa Barbara. So let's look at our first poster here. These are not in date order, these are just so wonderful. Rick Sharp, especially if you were maybe baby boomer era, you would recognize this work. Fantastic artist, local guy. He was just a teenager and he's being hired to do posters and do signage. A lot of it, just the detail, just fabulous. And he features one of our own in the picture, and that's the Spirit of Fiesta for 1977, Linda Cruz. And if that name sounds familiar, you might have danced with her or with, as a student with her mother, which was Rosemary Cruz. And by the way, Rosemary Cruz is still teaching dancers for Fiesta. Just phenomenal. But here's one of our own. Well, again, look at the handwriting, the hand lettering at the top. Beautiful, beautiful. Good job, Rick Sharp. And here's Jesse Garcia. Now, we don't see the mission. What's this all about? Who are these people? Well, as it turns out, the bicentennial founding of the Presidio. So we're showing the Presidio, not the mission. And this artist, very cool, Jesse Garcia, he's even got in this picture descendientes of the original soldiers at the Presidio, and that was Janine Robles and David Goena. Many of you out there might remember dancing with David's father, Luis Goena, who used to do the folk dances. And a little fun thing, you might see down in the corner, down by his leg, you see the chickens. And we always have a lot of these posters come up with nicknames. So when people are trying to remember, they don't always remember the year, but they go, you know, the poster with the chickens, and everybody goes, oh yeah, it's this one, Jesse Garcia. So that's why we call this the chicken. And notice again, the hand lettering, different, you know, it's the same style, but it's his own hand lettering for the headline there. And back to Rick Sharp again. So another Old Spanish Days. This is 1980, and he features the 1984, sorry, but he's featuring the Spirit of Fiesta, Cynthia Romero. And many of you out there know her mother, Marge Romero, who's been a board member of Old Spanish Days Fiesta for, I think, 453 years. I think I have that right. And notice, remember I talked about the oxen cart. So you see that she is sitting on the oxen cart, which was something like the U-Haul of the, of the 19th century. Now, first I want you to look at this hand lettering at the bottom. We're going to start with that hand lettering. Marty Newmeyer did that lettering. And does that look familiar? Especially you old timers. Sorry, you have to go baby boomers. You have to be here before, say, 1995 or so. So keep looking at and see if you can figure out, why does that look familiar? So our story is that the El Presidente that year was George Kalusky. He worked for Santa Barbara Bank and Trust. So he went to the guy who did the advertising, Marty Newmeyer, and said, can we do a Fiesta poster? And he says, yes. Marty has this wonderful artist in his office named Sandra Higashi. He said that she whipped that up in about 2 hours. And she's gone on since then to be a fantastic artist. And she does those sort of like adult coloring books. She comes up with the designs and it's very, very popular. She does those. So what is it about that lettering? If it looks familiar to you, that is the logo type that you use for Santa Barbara Bank and Trust. So he repeated it here for the use of Fiesta. And here we have William Andrew, who's capturing one of our favorite figures from the early Fiesta, and that's Maria Margelli. She was called the Vegetable Lady. This is the outfit and what she did in every single parade. So again, we've got the mission behind us. Looks like some hand lettering. And this was our real Maria in front of the church going down State Street. You see the white horse, no, I guess it's not a horse, but anyway, with the flowers on either side, or she'd have vegetables, and she was always the vegetable lady, the flower lady, and people loved to see her. The kids look for her every single year. So nice that he captured that, and it's, you know, there forever in our posters. Chip Raleigh, here's another wonderful paint. God, I just love this detail on this. This was a friend of the Presidente that year, was Pete Georgi. And it's just really pretty. It's very fantastic. I love the banner up on top. You see the mission, you see the couple. Now, what have we got? Things that we talked about. There's the caballero, and he's got his guitar, and he's wooing the girl. She's got the rose in her hair. She's got the fan. Back in the distance, there's a couple doing the hoochie coochie. They're dancing. Looks like a dog or a cat in between. But the next interesting is, next to them, we see these figures, and these are the ghost musicians. You can see one looks like he's playing the horn, and the other one is on violin. So we've been trying to get a hold of the artist to say, what happened here? Are these ghosts? He might have been, you know, there might be a story behind this. My other theory was maybe that suddenly there was a rush and they had to get on the printing press, and he hadn't finished figuring in these figures and just ran with it. So that's a mystery, and I'm sure we'll hear from him. Some friends have contacted him recently, but a beautiful job. And let's take a look at the detail in this. Beautiful columns, just all the little trim and all the little things that are featured there. You can see the different flags. There's the flag of California, different flowers, the poppy, but good job, Chip Raleigh. And here's another well-known, well-beloved Santa Barbara artist, Ralph Waterhouse. He's usually known for his fantastic landscapes all over Santa Barbara. But in this particular year, the President Top, Kelly Magny, approached him about doing a poster for Fiesta. So he thought about it and was trying to recreate some of the scenes that you see in old photographs of the beautiful senorita at the fountain in front of the mission. And he said, that's what I think I'll paint. She liked the idea. And he said, and I think I'll use you as the model. So she went, whoa, I wasn't expecting that, but she made a beautiful model, and it's a beautiful painting. Elise McConnell is our next one up. And if that name sounds familiar, yes, you are right. Her father started McConnell's Ice Cream, our favorite local ice cream. No disrespect from anyone else that started ice cream, just McConnell's, what can we say? And it features local, our mission, and also 1975 Spirit of Fiesta, Antoinette Lopez. Wonderful dancer. She had a dance studio. She started teaching in her neighborhood out of her garage. She was 14 years old. She was in junior high. And I think she's now performing in Vegas. So she's still dancing. Way to go, both the artist and the dancer. And here is Elaine Sweeney, another good artist. And what she was recreating here was a photograph done of a caballero on a horse that was doing tricks going down along the beach at one point in Santa Barbara. And she captured that by actually also not only the illustration, but also the hand lettering again that you see. That's all by her. And she did some other pieces that we'll see coming up. And this was a specialty poster. This was 2011. There was another Fiesta poster, but this just became sort of a salute to one of the really popular figures of every single Fiesta parade if you grew up here. And that was of Hattie Fizel, who's on top of the horse. Notice that the artist has captured so much detail. Just look at all the trim on the horse. Look at the lace on her dress. So our Miss Hattie was such an iconic figure. She lived from 1911 to 2011. Yes, 100 years old. So this was just made as a tribute poster to her. She rode in the very first Fiestas, actually the forerunners to Fiesta, which was the La Primavera Festival. She got on her pony and went in the parade, and then went in every single Fiesta parade, 1924, all the way through. And she said, until the age of 97. And she said the only reason she quit then was because her horse gave out. So then she was in the carriages for the last 3 years, but she wore the blue dress and came with an umbrella to protect her skin from the sun. And we just love this. So here she is in the painting, and here she is in real life. And she looks like she might be falling off the horse, but by gosh, she stayed up there upright with the umbrella single-handedly and charming the crowds. And again, kids looking for that every single year. Where's the old lady in the blue dress? She's 90, 100 years old, but there she is. Now, this painting was done 2001 by Detective Casey Nicholson, and Michael Taylor did the lettering. So what's our story here? Was our Fiesta Presidente this year was Roger Aceves. He was a police sergeant. So he just looked around his comrades and the other officers and tapped their talent and said, would you put something together for us? And then we have this featured here with the tile, typical of what you see across the street from the police department at the courthouse, finishing out the photograph. I think he now works in law enforcement, that Detective Casey Nicholson works in Ventura law, I think now. And here's another poster contest. This lady won, Laura Jasperson, and she's capturing very kind of evocative here of almost impressionistic of the iconic cascarones that we see every year. Probably most of you, if you grew up in Santa Barbara, you for sure bought one at one time. Otherwise, you begged your parents if you couldn't make them and try to sell them. I know I did that. And Lorna Dillon, the artist here, was well known for her cowboys, horses, ranch work, cattle, those kinds of landscapes. So what's happening here? Well, looks like, my gosh, doesn't that look like Cy Jenkins and his wife Karen? It sure does, and that's because their son Joe Cy was Presidente this year. So we don't see the mission there, but we are capturing the idea of the vaqueros and the caballeros, the days of the great equestrians of the Spanish California, and that's represented here. Now, this one is a very intriguing one. The nickname for this one is sometimes the Halloween poster, just because it's a night shot, but there's an intriguing story behind this. And this was the year for Dennis Ricard was Presidente, and his father was Presidente back in 48 and 49. And during the 49 festival, it was Fiesta. It was the 180th anniversary of depicting the de Portola's visit to Santa Barbara in 1769. So they did a reenactment of that in 1949, and that's what we're capturing here in this 2014 painting. So you see that the people are representing what the Port de Portolas group coming in with their horses at nighttime. Originally, they would have come from the foothills to come to the mission. And there's the priest, it looks like, in the lit door of the mission greeting them. And then you see the fireworks. You say, what's that all about? Well, in 1949 and a number of years after that, at the end of the Fiesta Pequeña show, they would throw off fireworks and they would light them from behind the mission at St. Anthony's Seminary. So you see a photograph of that in the lower left corner, and that's what the artist Russell Carter is repeating in the painting. And here is Brad Knack. You need to look him up on Google him, and you'll see he's very famous for his reindeer. But he was a friend of the Presidente that year, Roger Aceves. I'm sorry, Roger, just blanked out. Roger, they'll let me know. And he's here dancing on the steps of the mission with his wife, and this is what Brad Knack is capturing. And Jeremy Harmer was known also for his landscape artist with the ocean. Roger Perry, I'm sorry, that was Roger Perry, the last one. There we go, Roger Perry. And here's Jeremy Harper, well known for his as landscape artist. And the theme for this year was the coastal frontier, the ocean. And our Presidente this year, that year, was J.C. Gordon, and he was a complete surfer dude. So he had to see the ocean and put that together. But we haven't forgotten the mission. You see the mission, and as it would have looked 100 and 200 years ago, very little building, very stark. You know, you see a rise going up to the mission, and you can also see coming down from the mission to the right, you see the Presidio. So he's captured all that, and two more in this category. We have last year's Generations was the theme. And this is a perfect theme for this. It's a family affair for our Presidenta, Stephanie Petlow, First of all, we've got the mission. Yay, so far so good. We've got the iconic figure, but down below that, you see a figure of a dancing lady, and that was done by Stephanie's mother. She painted the watercolor of the dancer some 15 years ago. Then the granddaughter, Nadia, only 14 years old, she hand drew that colored mission. She worked from a photograph, but she did the mission. She also did the courthouse, lower right, the Friendship Dolphin Fountain from a photo on the lower left. And Stephanie's father-in-law was the president of the Puerto Vallarta sister city, which is where the first dolphin fountain went in. Oops, do we have one more? Oh no, it's not yet. So now a quick thing on these posters representing kind of a sign of the times. And what I'm saying is that in the poster, you kind of get what's going on in the world by just looking at sort of the design of that time. And our first one here is 1956. You say, well, that doesn't look like much of a poster. We see that it's Fiesta. We don't see the dates. We don't really see what these squares have in there. And it looks just kind of, I don't know, sort of industrial. And that's exactly right. This is after World War II. We're an industrial society changing over to technological. We're trying to be efficiency experts and reduce things to the essential. There's no fluffy details. We're not based on experience, but knowledge. This kind of looks like a travel brochure, and that's pretty much how they've captured Fiesta here. You can barely make out, but there's one picture of the mission. It's one of the courthouse, one of people on the horses going down the street, and I can't even make out what the other one is. Oh, yes, it is the county bull. So we started the bull shows by then. And the presidente that year was Grover Drake, who was born in the 1880s, which is kind of a funny thought. So it might have been that this is how he saw the world changing, and maybe he had some input with how this looked. I love this one, Groovy Santa Barbara, 1969. This was done by Carlos La Camara. Notice the style of the girl, very commercial looking. She looks like she would be the illustration maybe on the label for like taco sauce, something like this. That's just got a very, very commercial look to it. A very bold graphic design, 1960s mod, hand lettering. I forgot to point out all the other hand lettering, but once again, we see that. His story was he did have an ad agency in Cuba. And then at the time of the Troubles and the overthrow and Castro and the rest of that, he escaped 1960 to come to the United States. He was actually hired first by the National Geographic to do illustration for them back on, I think in Washington, DC. But he was by training and profession a commercial illustrator. He moved 67 to Ventura. He even had a show of his work in the El Paseo, some art gallery there right around this time, 67, 68, 69. And he was tapped then to do this poster for Bill Russell in 1969. And hand lettering here again, let's look at this. What's going on here? Well, Rudy Castillo was president that year, and he tapped his friend, another fellow native son of the Golden West, and that was the artist we saw before, Jesse Garcia. And you remember his work because that was the chicken poster at the Presidio. So we see the Liberty Bell hanging from the courthouse. It almost looks like it could go there, but down below there, it looks like Sancho Panza and Don Quixote. And there's a little dancing couple over at the side there. So what we're doing is we're celebrating the country's bicentennial, hence the Liberty Bell, and we're showing the bicentennial of the De Anza expedition, the land route coming from, in 1776, coming from Sonora, Mexico to New Spain, basically meaning Santa Barbara. Now let's look at some of the nationally known artists. Oh, thank goodness. Okay, there we go. Kerner, the artist of the American West. This painting was called Fiesta, and it was an illustration for Stuart Edward White, who was an author of historical novels, including Ranchero. These were all California kind of historical novels based on Spanish California. He was huge, huge. It's like we almost don't even know his name anymore but at the time he was probably certainly among the top 5, depending on your taste, authors in America at that time. So his novels were based on Spanish California. On this Stuart Edward White, by the way, His great nephew was Bendy White, who was our council member. And based on the artist here, Kerner, who did this wonderful stuff, his grandson is Fal Oliver. Many of you know him. He's a local, I think he's an insurance guy, but he's also a musician and plays drums. So I'm including all this sort of Santa Barbara provincial stuff because we love this. Stuart Edwards White's house, by the way, you might know it today as the Poor Clare's Convent on Los Olivos. If you go up Santa Barbara Street, you can see there's a bigger 2-story house behind it. And that was built for Mr. White, the famous author, back in around 1904. This one is my favorite Spanish California artist. This guy is just amazing. And what I claim is he's the closest thing we have to a photographer of this era. Of course, we didn't have any photography at this time. And the artist is Alexander Harmer, and he married into a Santa Barbara Spanish family. Their adobe was pretty much where the city council parking lot is, where the city council is, was pretty much right next door to City Hall. So he's across the street diagonal from Casa de la Guerra. He's came from the East Coast. He was a marvelous, really talented young artist. Came over to Santa Barbara by the time around 1890. I might be off a couple years either direction. But what I want you to notice is A, the mission, but B, the incredible detail he has on his paintings. The original painting was not a huge mural. It's probably about the size of the screen that you're looking at on your computer. So it was about maybe 12 by 14, 12 by 16, around that size. But the detail is so incredible and so thorough that at one year when we had a show at the Santa Barbara Historical Museum, we took the piece, we took like one of the figures there that's maybe 3 inches tall, if that much in the original, and blew it up 5 feet tall, and nothing was blurry on it. And you could see more detail, like little rings and bracelets on some of these figures. So let's get a little more close up. You see the oxen cart that we talked about. You see the clothes there. They're dressed very typical Spanish California with the beautiful shawls and tons of dogs. This is another photo that was, I'm sorry, another painting that was not used as a poster, but just a wonderful look at all the detail here. So you just can see that the patterns and the lace and the shawls and all the women there, very full. The mission looks a bit truncated there, but it's just the style for what was happening. The building on the right would have been the Major Domo's house. So Alexander Harmer, because he married into a Spanish California family, he heard all the stories about what it was like back during the 1820s, 30s, and 40s. And a lot of these paintings that he has tell the story of what was going on at that time. So he's really a storyteller, but he's capturing it in painting. Here's some more detail. As we just saw one before, you can see how thorough that is. Let's just go back a second. You can see where these people are, and now we go forward. And the detail, for instance, in the man, that you can tell his scarf isn't solid color. It actually looks like it's striped. The detail on just his shoes. You go over to the right, you can see all the flowers. And again, the original figure is maybe 2 inches tall, but how much we can pull from this. All the detail on her skirt is just remarkable. Here is another Alexander Harmer. This is interesting story about the hand lettering here. The Presidente this year was Clay Dickens, and his sister was a graphic artist, and particularly she designed typefaces, different type fonts. So she created this one, again, hand lettering, this just special. And on the horses, you notice the woman, 2 women that are facing. In most of Alexander Harmer's paintings, he will put in his wife and his daughter. So that's who we have here on the 2 horses facing people. There's the close-up of them. I'm assuming that's the wife on the left and the daughter on the right. The daughter is Inez, and is a little more Santa Barbara trivia. She married Jack Northrop, as in Northrop Aviation. Yes, that started in Santa Barbara. Once again, Santa Barbara is just too cool for words. This one is a gathering of friends. This was done by Thomas Van Sina. The details are not important. He is just such a character. He was a big self-promoter. He designed sets for the Fiesta pageants that we talked about at the stadium. And he is an artist of excellent artistic anachronisms. So in this, we're going to see a gathering of friends. That was the theme for that year. And the courthouse was done in 2029, and you can see through to the library. That's okay. But now let's get a closer look at all these gathering of friends. I don't know where they're from, but we've got conquistadores who are not in Santa Barbara. It looks like the guys from Salem, Massachusetts, or some other Quakers. So we've got an assortment of characters here, but who cares? It's a gathering of friends. You're all welcome. It's Fiesta. Join in the fun and the party. And next we have Jesus Helguera. He was considered the Norman Rockwell of Mexico. Fantastic detail and capturing just everything about whatever is the scenario. Here they're doing La Bamba. That is one of the great traditional dances. This is Veracruz. So Veracruz was where the port was, and you get a lot of Europeans coming through. So the music there would have that represented as well. If you're familiar with La Bamba, not the Ricky version, but not the rock and roll version, but the original one, it's just such a beautiful dance. You see the costumes have a lot to do with the influence of Europe with the ruffles, very Spanish, but notice the detail in the lace and the ruffles. And the Bamba song, you might remember they've got on the little, the guitarons, they're smaller than that, and the harp. So look down to the lower left corner. Now we're going to zoom in. And if you see, follow the horizontal lines, the vertical lines that I've got in this, you will see the outlines of a harp. And right above it, you can see the guy strumming the little stringed instrument, but almost looks like a ukulele, but it's another instrument. But you can see the harp there. My husband is a harpist, so I had to put that little puppy in. And Kristen Tinker Nelson is another well-known, nationally recognized artist again. And this one is, we love to call the Where's Waldo for reasons you'll discover. It's been a very, very popular, I think it's totally been sold out for some time. The Nelson family, Tinker family, the whole group, very, very talented. Her brother is Mark Harmon, that you might know from NCIS, for those TV people. She married Ricky Nelson, yeah, that Ricky Nelson, the early teenage rock star. She's the mother of the Nelson rock stars, the twins, and she was a nationally recognized collectible artist. So how did we get her for Fiesta? Well, her cousin, another talented person, is Lisa Burns locally. Lisa's husband was Scott Burns, who was El Presidente for this year. And what they did was they brought her up to Santa Barbara the year before and had her watch the parade and get a feeling for everything on what to prep. And she's got everybody in here. This is so cool. Now, first of all, look up at the top. You see to the right, you see part of the ocean. You go to the left. There she's got the mission in. But now let's zoom in. And starting at the bottom, she's got the Spirit of Fiesta in the white dress with her court. Very good. Over to the right from that group, you see there's the mariachis that are always featured. Next up, we have Saint Barbara, who's always in a float showing the tower. And it's always carried by horses, not automobiles. And you see the flags of Mexico and America, the US, going along there. And by the way, even some of the people on the side, they know who they are. And they said, yes, that's what I was wearing. Those are my tennis shoes. They've told me about it and I believe it. Oops, let's go back there. Then further up, you see to the left, there's Father Virgil. He's in a gray robe because originally that's what the Franciscans wore in Spanish California. They were in gray robes. It wasn't till maybe around 1870, 1880s when the German Franciscans came to town, and then it changed to the brown robe. Above Father Virgil, you see the iconic figure of the bride and groom of Fiesta. They're representing Anita de la Guerra, who married Alfred Robinson, was the subject of the travels of Richard Henry Dana when he wrote 2 years before the Mass. So we always see this bride and groom, and that's what it's from, the marriage, and that was recounted in the book 2 years before the Mass, and it's just our iconic figures that we always have. And who do we have at the top, the last arrow, pointing to blue dress with the umbrella on a horse? Yep, it's Hattie Fizel riding her horse, and she must have been 80-something years old at that time. And this one is Nick. It looks like when you read his name, Nick fur fires, but is nix for Furies, and he was Greek and a fantastic artist, well-known, a nationally recognized artist. He was born and raised in Santa Barbara and displayed his talent very early. He did a fantastic piece in World War II, which was sort of an illustrated diary of kind of a military publication. I found that on the internet and bought that. He grew up on local ranches, and he was a working cowboy, just like some of the other artists, Ed Barine, that we'll cover next. And beautiful, beautiful painting. And you see the mission, of course. Do we have an oxen cart in there? Yes, we do. To the right of one of the white, looks like the steer there, cow there. And people up on the beautiful dress, just captured it wonderfully. And Ed Barine, who is probably the most famous artist of Santa Barbara, renowned Western artist for sure. He loved Fiesta. He participated and helped in the very first Fiesta to create the Fiesta Parade. He would wear his Mexican charro outfit, one that he actually had authentic. He was a cowboy, he did do this. And he worked as a vaquero in Mexico and really understood and appreciated the cowboy, caballero, vaquero roots of Fiesta. He was a founding member of Los Rancheros Vistadores and was a close friend of Will Rogers. And his studio was in the heart of the Old Spanish Days, El Paseo. So if you go down the street of Spain today, you'll see a plaque that says this was the studio of Ed Barine. He also sketched scenes for the letterhead used by the Old Spanish Days Fiesta and did the El Presidente Stanwood's thank you letter design. And his saddle is in the Carriage Museum. You can see that today, where there is a fantastic 80-foot frieze that just surrounds the whole room, done by Ed Barine. And that's this year's poster. The artist is Arthur Beaumont. He was originally from England, came to the US at 19 years old. He was a lieutenant in the US Navy, and he's most famous, absolutely worldwide, for his naval scenes, naval battles. But more remarkably, I think, was he was in watercolor. I mean, they're so intense and strong and fantastic. About 4 years ago, there was a wonderful showing of his work at the Maritime Museum. And this year, Maria Cabrera tapped this piece to be used for our poster. It was used in 1953 for the brochure for Fiesta. And so it's nice to see this again. We have the mission, we have the Padres represented, and the girls dancing in the traditional outfits. Something interesting, and I don't know what year this was done, if it was done the year of 1953, I wasn't able to find that out. But around 1948, his right hand was crushed, and then he continued to paint with his left hand. Wow. Maybe he was ambidextrous, but that's pretty impressive. And then last, we have some photographs. This was by J.W. Collins, who was early century photographer in Santa Barbara, especially known for his harbor seascapes, Fiesta seascapes, also, Fiesta photographs, the great estates of Montecito and the garden collection. And this is a very famous one. If you've been to Santa Barbara, you've seen it used for a number of different things. But the hand coloring, it wasn't black and white, was done by artist Peggy Lynch. She did a fabulous job on this. And a lot of Santa Barbara people know that this is their relative, their great grandfather, their uncle are here. Teresa Therese Newton and her grandfather, I think, and her father in here. One of them is the guitar player. And here's another one by Collins. I think this was done in El Paseo. Beautiful job, colored by Peggy Lynch, and it looks like hand lettering for Fiesta as well. This Fiesta that you've seen, this particular logo type, was done by Elaine Sweeney, and we've used that on numerous posters, even if she didn't design the rest of the poster, that Fiesta logo type that she did. And this is a photograph, or the central part of this was a photograph taken from the collection in our historical museums. And then the rest put together with all kinds of bits and pieces here, but the central parts is kind of two pieces. One is the guy and the girl dancing, and then the second one is the mariachis, and I believe they are at the El Paseo on the stairs there. Victor Sigismundi, and he'd shot a lot of the photographs of the parade, and then this was just specially Photoshopped together basically. So these people aren't usually seen that close together, but he put them all in so we could capture sort of all the different exciting parts of the parade, the spirit of fiesta, the flower girls, and you see back the people on the horses. And so what's kind of fun about this is if you look really clever, you can see some of the shadows aren't right. So that just shows you throughout the 2 hours that you do the parade and the sun changes and there's different people in different parts of the street. But anyway, he did a very good job putting this together and getting the essence of the parade. And finally, we end with the Sevilla posters. The story on this, let's get to the first one. In Sevilla, they have the Semana Santa y Feria, which is the Holy Week festival during the spring. Most of the time in these posters, which have been going on a lot longer than Fiesta, they go back to the 19th century. You see underneath the horse, you see kind of the outlay of the city, and you see the cathedral bell of the Giralda, which is the big church there, and the cathedral bell tower is their signature building, just similar to our mission. So they've been doing these posters for about 150 years, very popular in Europe, and even in Santa Barbara, I could find copies of these posters in old photographs, say around the Casa de la Guerra, as early as the 1920s. So as soon as we had our fiesta, I guess we just went, wow, we ought to be using some of these. So at this time, when we started, in the 90s, our office manager for Fiesta was Diana Vandervoort. Her family were descendientes. And she was an artist herself. Her mother was an artist. And she loved this poster, which was hanging in the old Casa de Sevilla. So how many remember that, the Casa de Sevilla? We loved that restaurant. As an art major, she was really taken with this. And the presidente that year was Jim McCoy. Yes, Jim McCoy is the one who ran the McConnell's ice cream since 1963. So it comes full circle here. And she said, what if we adapt that? It would make a wonderful poster for Fiesta. So there it is. There's that flourish of Fiesta and adapted. Now we still have the original Giralda there from Spain, but that will change in the next time we're going to use it, which is now we see here's the poster. We changed it up a little bit. We put our mission. So it was a very good job by this artist putting that in. And now we come to 98. You can see the original poster on the left and what we did with it in 98, changed it up, took extra frou-frou, put our Fiesta Flourish 98 at the top, and changed the colors of the dresses. Here's another one. Again, you can see the Giraldo, the cathedral between the original couple, and on the right side, we see the mission, but makes a beautiful poster. Here's another one. Now, this is actually one I worked on. I didn't do the artwork. This was from Sevilla, but I did keep that in the background because to me, it looked like you're on Victoria looking down that corridor towards the Arlington Theater. So I thought, I think I'll just keep it. It just kind of fits right there. And here's what we have in 1933. This is Doris, I'm just blanking our last name, Danson. We're on the back side of Casa de la Guerra. And can you see that poster is the same one that we saw here? But it's the original one to Spain, obviously, since ours came, a million years after that. And here's another one. This was used 2015. And I did this one, and my kudos, I have a shout out to Dirk Brantz, who helped me in the photoshopping of this and how many layers we did. Those of you who work Photoshop know how much it takes to take something. I thought, how hard could it be just to clean this up, change her dress to make it a little more pink, et cetera, and then just even developing the shadow for the mission that we have the silhouette there. But it just fits Santa Barbara so nicely. And this one I found by accident. I didn't know it was originally a Sevilla poster. So this was ours from 1952. You can see even back then they slipped out the Giraldo and they put in the mission, but clearly this was the inspiration for it. And finally, we go to the year before that, this poster was 2020, done by Andrew Leonard. And this to me is just a sensational, clean, it goes to all the elements that we talked about. There's the mission, the dancing couple, the rose in her hair, her hand, one akimbo, the other one up in the air. He's wooing her, and it's clean. You can read what it's about. Old Spanish Days is coming to town. And folks, this, ladies and gentlemen, is what makes for the art of fiesta and why we love every little bit of it so much in Santa Barbara. And with that, I conclude my talk. And if there's any questions, I'll take them.
Thank you, Erin. Yes, now we are going to begin a brief question and answer period. If anyone from our audience has questions for Erin, I encourage you to please enter your questions in the Q&A section at the bottom of your Zoom screens or in the comments on Facebook. I'll start off our question and answer period for you, Erin. If you could just give us a general context of how are Fiesta posters selected? Does El Presidente contact an artist, or is there a contest? Or I'm unfamiliar with how they're selected. So,
well, there has been contests, and we saw a couple of those. In general, I say to people for any organization, don't do a contest, because there have been opportunities, didn't happen with Fiesta, where you don't get something that looks too good and you may not have enough entries. And so then you're sort of stuck there. It's a great local story having to do with the fountain at one point, but I'll leave that for someone else to discuss. So it's been really in the last, since around the mid-90s, that it became something that the Presidente just kind of worked into. It wasn't ever a decision, but somehow it got taken over, that then the Presidente for that year will pick a theme that was happening for some time, but that they would then decide what's going to be the poster, what will happen with it, etc. Sometimes that's been good, sometimes that hasn't been good. So, you know, you've seen the panoply of posters through the years, and you can see some things work, some things don't work. But yeah, so it's pretty much now kind of the prerogative of the Presidente, and he comes up with he or she will come up with an idea, and the artist, and that's what.
Is there an open call for artists, or is it usually?
No, so it's usually there isn't an open call. Sometimes we've had people come in and say, I would love to be the artist. And I don't know, there's one lady I know specifically, and I said, yeah, I'll put the name in, but it's not my decision. It doesn't seem these days to be a board decision. It's under the prerogative of the president for that year.
For sure. Great. Another question that we have from our audience is anyone working on a book with all of the Fiesta posters in it?
Well, that would have to be me. So last year, everybody said, you are doing a book on this. You are doing the book on this. So yes, so I will be doing that. It would be nice to have that out for the 100th year, would be my aim. So so the Presidente for that year, Presidenta for that year, will need to, if they want to get in the book, they will have to have it a year in advance.
Oh, I hope that gets published in time. That would be such a great resource to have.
It's so juicy. It's just all about, you know, it's not just, here's a pretty painting. It's, as you could tell, it's got so many cool little Santa Barbara secrets in it, and just good, fun stuff.
Getting a little bit more specific, another question, going back to the Harper landscape poster.
Oh, Harper.
Yeah, of the Frontier Days, if you want to switch back to that. Such a rich history. The question is that Castle Rock in the foreground of this poster? Can we see that?
Yes, that's the little lump there. In reality, I don't know that would be the perspective, but I think that's what the artist was putting in, which is very cool. So if you don't know what Castle Rock is, it doesn't exist anymore. So it went away, it got blown up in 1930. But you will see in all the great paintings, all the landscape paintings of Santa Barbara at this time, when they're doing a seascape, there was this feature. And where that would be today is about 20, 30, 40 feet back from the entrance to the Breakwater Walk. So if you're in the parking lot and you start heading to the restaurant or the Maritime Museum, and there's two posts there marking where you're going to start on the walk, it looks like just the sidewalk, right? But if you were to go up to that and then back up 40 feet, that's where Castle Rock was. That section of our waterfront was all underwater until we built the breakwater, and then all the sand locked up behind it. And that's why you have enough sand to put the Maritime Museum on, the yacht club, the parking lots that were there. That was all originally underwater, just as you see it portrayed here. So there's Castle Rock, and everything that would be going north from that would be, as it's seen here, underwater.
Fascinating. Okay, we have a tip from the audience, Erin. Our tip is that Chip Rowley, regarding that poster, Chip Rowley responded that he took a lot of time and effort to render the ghost musicians to evoke reminiscences of music and the past fiestas.
Oh, so
The
that is
little dog,
cool. Okay.
yeah, the little dog is their Jack Russell Terrier, and the girl by the fountain is his partner's daughter.
Oh,
Tip for you.
you all remember that one? Let me think of where that is. Santa Barbara. Oops, that was it. There it is. Okay, so let's take a close up. So there is the daughters at the fountain. Is that correct? And there's the little dog. Let's go. There's the dog. And there's that. So that's cool. So they were there on purpose. So that is to represent the musicians of old playing the music. That's cool.
Yes,
Okay.
the comment, the daughter's name is Sienna Craig. Another question for you is, can you tell us a bit more about the pageants in Peabody Stadium?
So those were written by, especially the early ones were written by Charles Presley. So like I said, he was a total entrepreneur, total impresario. He was in silent films, and he just loved anything and everything about theater. I'm actually publishing his autobiography in about 3 months from now. I'm just finishing editing on it. And he's just quite the character. But he also worked on the parade. And I mentioned this if you're old timers here, when we used to have lots of historic floats. And it was his concept for about the floats that a child watching the Old Spanish Days parade and seeing these floats that depicted all the history, that just from watching the parade, they would know their California history, because there were these different scenes in Santa Barbara and in California history. So that's the kind of showman he was. So now when it comes to these events in Peabody Stadium, they were written by him. The songs would have been by somebody locally. He didn't write the songs, or at least not the music. And they might have been considered really provincial, maybe a little bit corny, because theater at that time was very different than it is. It's not so sophisticated. I don't mean just with the technology, but just the subject matter. They were really more, pageantry kind of songs and pageantry kind of presentations. But they would always end with a party at the end where everybody comes out in fiesta dress. This is all going to be in Spanish California setting. And when he moved this to the bowl, when the bowl was completed, there was always the scene where all the people are going to come to the party, and they're all on horseback carrying candles or torches. This is in real life. I mean, this would be a fire hazard 5,000 miles away, but it was very famous locally, or very well known locally. So there would be people who would say, I always heard it as one of the bowl riders. I thought they were on, like the rodeo. And it was a bowl, as in the Santa Barbara County bowl riders. They got to be on their horses with the torches. And if you were in the audience, it was awesome to look at, just incredible. And they'd come on stage. And then of course you'd have to end with the guy and the girl getting together and a big fiesta and a partying. And he had tremendous sets, and he designed a rotating stage that actually rotated in a circle. He had his brother-in-law, or his brother actually did the engineering on it. It was part of the county bowl, but it was destroyed, I think, in some huge, one of the floods, rains, something like that. So it was never rebuilt, but he actually had a patent on it. And they were quite the thing. And some people would be coming into the city, the claim goes, and they would see one of his sets that would show the mission and think, oh, that's the real mission. But it was just one of the fantastic sets. And in fact, the artist that you might remember, I said in the beginning, that was such a promoter, and he had the gathering of friends, that he just had everybody in there. All Tarnation was in that painting. He was a very fine artist, and he did a number of the sets for the years, I think around 27, 28, right in there, for Charles Presley's in these community shows.
That's too good. I think we need to bring back the rotating stage.
Yeah, you can imagine you could set it up and I think it had enough for 3 scenes. So you'd have 1/3 that would be shown on, and then the next one is getting set and you would just turn it, because at that time you didn't have the full proscenium, which we have now in the rebuilt bowl. You just, it was just out in the open. So the way that you would have to set up a scene, you'd be stuck there. But with a rotating stage, you could turn and get to another scene. So he did have famous people that would come. I can't remember the names right off the bat. That were Roger Wagner Corral actually was the conductor, maybe wrote some of the music. So later on in the 40s and the 50s, he did have, and through, 40s and 50s, he had famous people come in either conducting or singing. Pancho Villa's daughter was in one of the choruses. She was here in Santa Barbara, Panchita Villa. It was quite a remarkable man.
Love the history. Okay, Erin, and our final question for you, perhaps the most important. Do you have a favorite Fiesta poster?
Ooh.
Tough question.
Yeah, I'm kind of taken with Alexander Harmer, but the better posters were the Sevilla posters, I think. I think I like the blue one. The one that I thought looked like a... See, I do like these, but as a poster, well, I did like the one that we had at the end. It's coming. Yeah, I did like that one. And this one was just very evocative to me. It's hard to say. There's a couple of them. And of course the traditional one, just because it's, I'm a baby boomer. And so you have to have the dancing couple. But yeah, a lot of very pretty ones.
That's funny. 2003 is actually one of my favorites now too. And I hadn't seen it until this year because it's actually on view at the Historical Museum's Project Fiesta exhibition. So if you'd like to see in person some of the posters that Erin has shared with us tonight, I invite you to visit the museum's new Project Fiesta exhibition, where the original posters from the years 1924, 1925, 1952, 1969, that groovy one, 2003, and 2009 are on display. Well, thank you for answering our questions, Erin, and for a fabulous presentation. You are truly the Old Spanish Days Fiesta expert in this town. And again, I want to remind all of our audience members that the museum is open. You can visit Wednesdays through Sundays from noon to 5 p.m. and Thursdays open later until 7 p.m. and entrance is free. And again, I thank you, Erin Graffy, and to all of our audiences on Zoom and Facebook. Thank you for tuning in and watching tonight. I hope you all have a wonderful evening, and I hope to see you all at the Historical Museum very soon. Thank you for joining us tonight. Thank you, Erin.
Thank you, and Viva la Fiesta.
Viva la Fiesta. All right, good night, everyone.